Hello, and welcome back to another video. Today, we have a lot of cats. 3 of them came out and stayed with me the whole time that I was drawing. So you'll see them quite a lot throughout this video. I felt pretty confident today, and I tried a new technique, and I also tried to draw something pretty risky and difficult, but we'll get to that when it's on screen. On the other side of this spread, I drew with one pen, the Lamy Safari with the biggest nib I could buy, the 1.9. But today I decided to fill up my other fountain pen. It's a TWSBI Eco with the smallest nib. So basically using the largest and smallest nibs that I could buy at the stationery store. I decided to add in the small nib because while I like that the big nib forces me to simplify, there were important details that were hard for me to draw accurately, like the really small headlights or details of the grille. In this first sketch, I felt that I relied on the small nib a bit too much. It's really easy to control, and I actually don't like the line quality that comes with that. The calligraphy nib gives really fun and energetic line quality because it's kind of awkward to use, and the line quality changes as I draw. On the next sketch, I went back to using the calligraphy nib as my first and main pen, and only using the small one for details or lines that kind of need to be lighter and secondary. And I feel like I hit on a good combination with these 2 pens. I like showing my sketchbook to people. It used to be more for the affirmation, but now I'm pretty confident in my work. So it's kind of like an experiment now to see what people will think of the way I draw. I like drawing what I call the essence of the subject. Just the bare minimum, what is needed to know and feel what it is. And there's this fun line quality and sincerity to this way of drawing. I kind of feel like a fraud talking this way about my art because I really don't like it when people overanalyze or over-describe art, especially when it's not that deep. But anyway. I showed this spread to a friend and he totally got what I was doing and described it really nicely. This is paraphrasing, but he said it's like when you're walking by the farm equipment and out of the corner of your eye you see the grain truck and you're like, yep, that's the grain truck. But if you look closer, like maybe you're planning to buy the truck, you see all these little details. Isn't that a great description? I was really happy to hear it. I like drawings that are the bare essence of the subject, but it doesn't feel like anything is missing, and I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of this way of drawing. On the third drawing, I decided to try something new. I had a falling out with hatching years ago. I started to associate it with bad amateur art, but that's because I was making bad amateur art. Anyway, I felt like I needed a third value on this one, and the only way to do that with these 2 pens is some hatching. I'm really good at overthinking things. Like, what direction should I hatch to best describe the form? How much should the lines be spaced? And if the surface curves, do I curve each line or do I stop those lines and then start a new row at a different angle? I kind of thought about all these things, but luckily not for too long. These drawings are really loose, and the point is not to overthink it, just enjoy the drawing. And of course that's easier said than done, but luckily I didn't get too caught up in things, and I just went with my intuition. I did kind of worry for a minute that I might destroy the cohesion of this whole spread by introducing a new poorly executed technique. But my first goal is to enjoy drawing outside from life, and making good art I'm trying not to think about too much. That's kind of secondary. I mean, of course I want to make good art, but, just try not to worry about it. It's a sketchbook, and I figure my reason to draw in it is first to enjoy it and record things in my life and find my sketching style. Getting caught up in making good art is what causes me to become too paralyzed to even draw in a sketchbook, sometimes for months. So best to try and not think that way. Anyway, the hatching was a success. The third value gives me more options, and it's still cohesive with the other drawings. So yeah, a new technique for my arsenal, another skill that I can use in my sketchbook. And now a little ASMR intermission, showing some of the prep before I went out sketching. Everything was going well during these sketches, so I felt pretty confident. I drew a little too small compared to the opposite page, and things were a little bit too spacious, so I looked at the truck for some details that I could draw in those spaces, and I figured the emblem would be the most interesting and pertinent thing. I have had quite the experience with typography. I love vintage posters, and as a beginner artist, I copied a lot of them, but boy was I bad at it. I thought of James Gurney and how amazing he is at typography, and because I was feeling confident, I thought, it's really just measurements, angles, and shapes, just like anything else. I already know how to do observational drawing, and that's really all it is. I'll admit I didn't actually measure anything, but I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing distances. I remembered that outlining everything is a quick way to make your work look amateur, so I figured that applies to drawing chrome lettering as well. So I picked some edges to become lost, some to be outlined, and then some of them I used the calligraphy pen for the cast shadows. And yeah, it worked. I'm really surprised how good it looks. And it was freehand, no rulers, I didn't sketch it in pencil first. Pretty cool, right? So that's another thing I can do and add to a spread to make it more interesting. So that's the complete sketchbook page and 2 days of sketching outside. I hope you enjoyed the video, and may your next drawing session be very enjoyable.